Hello, my name is John Wagner, and I'll be leading you through this PowerPoint screencast concentrates on the creation. We'll start with an example. The example is a simple one from given a mass and a specific gravity, a diameter of the tank, and we ask both the volume and the height of liquid. One of the things you're somewhat restricted to are numerical type questions. It is best if they have multiple parts, and the instructor in the final setup template can then pick which parts are appropriate for that class, and he can make the question either more difficult or easier. The first thing is to really find the template and open it up. You can put it in a directory that the custom office template directory if you want easy access to it, but any method of just opening it is fine. This is a macro enabled template, so you usually have to enable the contents. You'll notice on this sheet when you open it up that the steps are given in highlighted areas, step 0, 1, and so forth, so we'll be just following those steps with that example. It's also this yellow box is where the question, we're going to substitute the new question with the one that's in there already. That table below is your output, final output table. Okay. I kind of requested that people use a specific file name when they save the spreadsheet, so that if multiple authors or multiple creators are submitting these, we have some system to keep them straight, really. It has to be a macro-enabled workbook also. After you save the file as a macro-enabled workbook, then you'll just replace, in the problem itself, its statement itself, in that yellow box, you'll retype or paste the problem statement in, then replace the variables that you want to change with letters enclosed in brackets. You also, for each designation like A and B, you want at least one space before that. And any subscripts or superscripts you'll add in as symbols instead of using the subscript and superscript modifications. After you hit F9 to recalculate the sheet, below the sheet it will substitute those variables in a couple of different tables, one below the yellow box and one a couple to the right. The table to the right is the one where you set up the variables so that you make a whole range of them. So any variables you're not going to use, go ahead and delete those. Put in the base case values, that was the values in the original problem statement in the first row. And upper and lower limits, those are integer values, and then what you're going to divide them by and the increment above that. After doing that, you'll hit F9 and it creates the table below, which gives you 199 random values between the upper and lower limits. Press the only macro really that you'll need is Control-Shift-T, which generates a table. And I normally hide the columns that I don't use just to clean up the spreadsheet a little bit. Where you solve the problem, you'll just put in the variable that you're creating as a table heading, and those are just labels, and then just put in the calculation below those. Just type a formula like you've always done in Excel, and then if you want to delete those variables that were kind of left over from the previous template and hide the unused columns, that cleans up the spreadsheet a little bit. In step 5, for the table headings of A, B, and C, you'll just refer to where you solved that particular variable. If you hit F9 a few times, you have a preview problem box that you can view and make sure that the problem is reacting like you think it should. the base case agrees with your documented solution, and save your final file. This is just an example where we have an initial weight and a final weight, and we never want the random variables to give us negative mass added or something like that. So we're going to set it up just slightly different. We're just going to create another variable called delta m in that table, and define delta m, run the Control-Shift-T table macro, and then make the m final just initial plus the delta. That way we don't run into negative masses. Rest of it's just the same as we did in example 1. Final example is where we're going to change the compound. Instead of giving the specific gravity, we're going to change the compound. So again, steps 0, 2 are the same. We'll just replace the values with the letters in brackets. Now we'll just make an index variable, the index at the base case being 1, 2 to 4 for all other values. We'll create a table somewhere off in the spreadsheet that has the index value and the compounds that we want to substitute in. We'll use Control-Shift-T and just use the VLOOKUP command to substitute in those values. Solving the problem is much enhanced by some add-ins by David Silverstein at the University of Kentucky called APEX, especially for the Material Energy Balance course, where you can get specific gravity of a substance or molecular weight of a substance. This goes along fairly well with a Felder book. The rest of the solution is pretty much the same. A couple of things to remember: save early and often. It's just Excel, so you can use all the functions you know and love in Excel. The only thing that gets transferred to the next step, to the setup template, is the yellow box and the green data box below it. So you can solve it any way you want. And if you have any feedback or things you would like changed, wagnerj@trine.edu. Thanks for viewing the screencast.